Gervonta Davis needs to fight Vasily Lomachenko before he moves up to 140. I think this is the big fight. I talked in my last video about this potential fight between Vasily Lomachenko and Gervonta Tank Davis, and the reason why I think it's such a great fight is, do I really have to sell it? Hey, I'll sell it to you guys, but hey, I think you boxing fans know that this is a fight that I think should have taken place 4 or 5 years ago. Vasily Lomachenko and Tank could have even fought at 130 if they really had to. But I think now is a good time for Loma and Tank to get it on. Obviously, Kambosos and Loma are going to fight for that 135-pound title. But ultimately, I think Tank needs that Kodak win. I've been saying that. And I think Frank Martin, kind of moves the needle a little bit. But I still think that if it's not Shakur Stevenson at 135, it's got to be Vasily Lomachenko. Otherwise, how can we really guarantee that Tank's our guy? Like, you know what I mean? I think Tank is he's that guy. I just think he needs that Kodak win. And I think, if it's not Shakur, then it has to be Vasily Lomachenko, because who else has a great, resume that Tank could beat and they're going to give him credit for? I think it's only Vasily Lomachenko, especially if Devin Haney doesn't want to come down to 35 because he physically can't. He's not going to want to do a catch weight. He's going to consider himself the A side. So for Tank Davis, I think it's very critical that he gets the Lomachenko fight, because I've been waiting for this fight. I was like always, even in the past year or so, I've been saying, why is no one talking about the fact that Vasily Lomachenko and Tank could very well make a fight? And I understand the aspect of Vasily Lomachenko's with Top Rank and then Tank is with PBC low-key and Amazon Prime, so that's where he's going to be fighting. But I feel like they gotta send a contract or something. We haven't heard anything about a contract, and then we hear stuff like Vasily Lomachenko is calling out Tank because he doesn't think that he's fought great opposition. Vasily Lomachenko wants to see Tank against real 135-pound contenders that are respected within the sport. And Vasily Lomachenko, like, who has he really beat? I think the Devin Haney fight, take that for example, I think a lot of people say Loma won the fight. Maybe he won that fight. I just don't think he did enough. In the sport of boxing today, judging is very iffy. Judging can be very corrupt. There are a lot of robberies in the sport as of, the past 6 to 7 years, or it's been going on longer than that. I just think, it's been really prevalent where there's a lot of corruption in terms of, how judges score rounds, what they're really taking into account. And, obviously there's criteria such as, effective ring generalship, effective punches landed, clean punches, and defense. And, that's all literal criteria that judges use to, decipher and determine whether or not this fighter won the round or this fighter won the round. And I think nowadays, Vasily Lomachenko, he had a great performance against Devin Haney, taking into account his age, the circumstances, the fact that Devin Haney is a blue chip prospect at the time, and he's already that 35-pound champ. Devin, also respect to Devin, because he didn't have to give Loma that shot. When Devin was asking Loma for that fight, he said get a belt first, and then Devin became champ. But ultimately in that fight, there was a lot of give and take. There was a lot of back and forth. Devin got hit more than I thought he would, so that's a lot of credit to Vasily Lomachenko. But I feel like in the last round, that was a critical round for Vasily Lomachenko. I think he bags that round. Then you could call it a robbery potentially, but he didn't do enough to go out there and take it from the champ. I think nowadays in the sport of boxing, you have to do that. Otherwise, your victory isn't safe. I've been saying that. I've been saying you have to pitch a damn near shutout or knock the opponent out, or knock your opponent out and stop them, so that there's no question that you won that fight. And I think with Vasily Lomachenko and Devin Haney, it was too close to really call it. But, a lot of people are going to give Devin Haney credit, as I do, because I think at his age, to fight a guy like Loma the way that he did and have a lot of success, and it was an entertaining fight. Like, that was a good, underrated fight, and I think a lot of people slept on that fight because it was on ESPN, and how ESPN Plus and the pay-per-views, it's kind of a little bit difficult to navigate for the older boxing fans. So maybe it didn't do as well, but I thought that was a good fight for the sport of boxing. It was a slept-on fight that I think needed to happen, but Vasily Lomachenko and Tank would definitely do numbers. I'm just saying, a lot of people are making a name off of Vasily Lomachenko. Like Teofimo did it. Obviously that was a title fight, took all of his belts, and I think Teofimo did it more convincingly than Devin did. But the thing is, Devin, maintained it. You know what I mean? Like went up to 40 and did his thing. Obviously, Devin only fought Loma to defend his belts at 35, but he went up to 40, fought Regis. So Devin's definitely not ducking the big fights. There's no doubt about that. He's getting ready to fight Ryan Garcia, but for Tank's still missing that. I think he really needs to put that stamp on a victory against a very credible opponent. And I think Shakur, realistically, at 35, and Lomachenko are the only two fights where he really gets that credit. Even with Frank Martin, I think that's going to be the sign fight, but no one's going to give him credit for it because a lot of people don't know who Frank Martin is. Even though I think he's a great fighter, I think a lot of people are hyping him up to be something that he's maybe not, but you know, I'd love to see him give Tank some trouble. I think he does give Tank some trouble, but I don't think he's the guy to really beat Tank. I don't think so. I think he'll probably give him some trouble, but I think he's going to end up like the rest of them. Tank overwhelms him. It's just a different animal, and Tank's the face of boxing right now. If you put anyone who's not Devin, Shakur, Tio, if you put any of those guys other than those three, I think, you know, it's easy money for Tank. Otherwise, those other fights are very competitive, but we know the logistics and the negotiation aspect of boxing doesn't always allow for those fights, you know, to say the least. We don't get those fights unless there's some big controversy. Usually these fighters, they have to run into each other and something big has to happen. They kind of have to have a confrontation. It's almost like, you know, it's been a thing in the most recent fights in the sport of boxing where there's always an iconic moment where there's an interaction between two fighters and then a big fight happens. Like Shakur, Devin, they had that whole negotiation process, but also these guys have history, so that doesn't count. And then Tank, Devin, and Shakur, they've all sparred each other, so there's already a built-in narrative to see that fight. But I think, you know, if they ran into each other, maybe there's a bigger chance that the fight happens. But I just think Lomachenko and Tank Davis is a long-awaited fight that we never got to see as boxing fans. I think it's a fight that we've been robbed of and should be seeing, despite whatever the negotiation process looks like. No matter, you know, who has to give up more money, I think they have to make that fight happen, despite the networks, whatever the case is. I've been waiting to see Vasily Lomachenko and Tank. I think that's the signature fight. If it can't be Shakur, it's got to be Loma at 35. Otherwise, no one's going to give Tank credit. You know, I don't think there's another opponent. Frank Martin's a great fighter, don't get me wrong, but, like, I just know. Like, he goes in there, stops Frank, the people are going to be like, whatever. And it's not me. I'm going to give him credit for beating a guy like Frank Martin. It doesn't bother me. I'm just talking about the people that say, you know, Tank's resume this, Tank's resume that. I think Tank's a great fighter. I just think he's missing that Kodak incredible, you know, victory where he sleeps a guy like Vasily Lomachenko, and that's it. You know, it's set in stone. So I'd love to see Lomachenko and Tank. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys want to see this, or would you rather see, you know, Tank go up to 40 immediately? I just think if it's not Shakur, it's got to be Loma, particularly at 35, assuming, you know, Tank does fight Frank Martin and then beat him. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
That's going to do it for another NASFight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy, Matt Nabong, with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.